Hello everyone, welcome to today's lesson on simplifying sets by applying the rule for division. In our first lesson on simplifying sets, we looked at how we can apply the multiplication rule to solve problems. And we said if you have root A times root B, this is the same as root AB. So if you are asked to simplify root 50, now you think of a square number that is a factor of 50. And that square number in this case is going to be 25. So we can write root 50 as root 25 times 2. And when we apply the multiplication rule, root 25 times 2 is the same as root 25 times root 2. And this will give us 5 root 2 because 25 is a square number. So square root of that will give us 5. And our final answer will be 5 root 2. Now we can also work backwards to get our root 50. And let's see how we can work backwards. So if you have 5 root 2, 5 root 2 is the same as 5 times root 2. So you think of how we can write this 5 as a set, and this can be written as square root 5 squared times root 2, because square root 5 squared is the same as 5. So we get root 25 times root 2. And when you are multiplying sets, the numbers in the set multiply. So we have 25 in a root, 2 in a root. So these two numbers will multiply. So we will have root 25 times 2, and this is equal to root 50. So this is how we work backwards. Let's look at another example. If you have 3 root 7 and you want to write this as a single set, this 3 root 7 is the same as 3 times root 7. So we think of how we can write the 3 as a set, and this will be square root 3 squared, because square root 3 squared will give us 3 times root 7. And square root 3 squared is the same as square root 9 times root 7. We have 9 and 7 all in a root. So we can write this as square root 9 times 7, which is equal to square root 63. So 3 root 7 is the same as square root 63. And you can check this in your calculator to see if you get the same answer for both. Let's look at the two questions on the screen. We are asked to work out, for the first one, we have root 16 divided by root 4. And this will give us 4 divided by 2, because 16 is a square number, so square root of that will give us 4, and 4 is a square number, square root of that will give us 2. So 4 divided by 2 is equal to 2, so we have 2 as our final answer. In the second question, we have 16 over 4 all in a square root, and 16 divided by 4 is 4, so this is equal to root 4, and root 4 is equal to 2. And if you check the two answers, you realize that both answers are the same. So this brings us to the general rule for division of set, which says that root A divided by root B is equal to A over B, all in a square root. So let's look at how we can apply this rule to solve some problems. So we are asked to write these as a single set and then evaluate them. In the first question, we have root 50 over root 2. So if we want to write this as a single surd, we have both the numerator and then the denominator being set. So this can be written as square root 50 over 2. And 50 divided by 2 is equal to 25. So we have square root 25. And this will give us 5 as our final answer. We can also choose to simplify the numerator and then do some cancellation here. Let's see how we can do that. So to simplify the numerator, we think of a square number that is a factor of 50, and that square number is 25. So we write root 50, so root 50 over root 2. We are going to write this as root 25 times 2 all over root 2. And when we look at the numerator, if we apply the rule for multiplication, this can be written as root 25 times root 2 all over root 2. We have root 2 in the numerator and root 2 in the denominator. So we can cancel the root 2's and we'll be left with root 25. And root 25 is equal to 5. So you can see that both answers are the same. So sometimes you can simplify the numerator or the denominator and cancel out, or you can write them as a single surd and then simplify. Let's look at the second question. So in the second question, we are going to write everything as a single surd. So we write this as root 80 over 10. And 80 divided by 10 will give us root 8. Now, our answer can be simplified. Always check to see if your answer can be simplified. Now, root 8, we think of a square number that is a factor of 8, and that square number is 4. So 8, we can write this as square root 4 times 2, which is equal to square root 4 times square root 2. And square root 4 is equal to 2 times root 2. So we have our answer as 2 root 2. So we have simplified our answer. And if you check in your calculator, square root of 80 divided by square root of 10, and you check the answer for 2 root 2, you are going to get the same answer. Let's look at the last one. So in the last question, we have root 320 over root 5. Let's write this as a single surd. So we have 320 over 5. And 320 divided by 5 is equal to 64. So we have root 64. And root 64 will give us 8 because 64 is a square number. So square root of that will be 64. Now let's check by simplifying root 320 and see if we are going to get the same answer. So we have root 320 over root 5. And we can write this as root 64 times 5. 64 times 5 is equal to 320 all over root 5. In the numerator, when we apply the rule for multiplication, we write this as root 64 times root 5 all over root 5. So the root 5 in the numerator and then the denominator will cancel and we'll be left with root 64, and this is equal to 8. So we get the same answer. Now, please pause the video and have a go. So in the first question, we have, this will be 8 over 2 because 8 is not a surd and 2 is also not a surd. So they are not going to come in the square root. And then we write the surd as a single surd, the numerator and then the denominator as a single surd. So we write this one as 1000 over 10. And 8 divided by 2 will give us 4. And 1000 divided by 10 will give us 100. Now, 4 root 100 is the same as 4 times 100. And root 100 is equal to 10. So we have 4 times 10, and our answer is equal to 40. You can check this in your calculator. In the second question, we write this as 15 over 6, and then the surd, we write everything as a single surd. So we have 32 root 32 over 2. When we look at 15 and 6, 3 is common. So 3 divides 15, 5, and divides 6, 2. So we have 5 over 2 root 16, because 32 divided by 2 is equal to 16. Now root 16, we have 5 over 2 root 16. This is the same as 5 over 2 times root 16, and root 16 is equal to 4. So we have 5 over 2 times 4. We can add over 1 because 4 is a whole number. And this will give us 20 over 2, which is equal to 10. So this brings us to the end of today's lesson. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my channel and kindly share with your friends and families to also subscribe. See you soon in my next lesson.